system design, right? Make
Yeah.
sure you got the right person here. Yeah, it looks good. Let me just quickly edit my text here. Give me a second. Okay, cool. Cool. Looks good. Looks good. All right. So I believe we've done one of these before, right? Just to confirm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you kind of know how this, how this goes. We got about an hour of time here. We'll be going for about 45 minutes, I'd say. Aim for 45. Okay, and you'll be in charge of time management on that one. You're going for like intermediate level, right? So that would be the expectation here. And then
Yeah.
of course, we'll leave time for questions, feedback, etc. How's that sound?
This sounds good. Thank you.
Great. So let's just get right into it then. So for today's system design, I would like you to help me design a autocomplete system for a search engine. So
Mhm.
that is the high level problem I'm going to try to solve.
Autocomplete or search engine?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why that did it, but really. Okay. All right. Autocomplete for search engine. Let's see. So I guess I'd like to start from how do you see a user using this? Or like how is this used in general? Just to understand.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
the main kind of surface here is when a user is interacting with the search engine, like typing text. Okay, when they're
Mhm.
typing text on the client, you are to
Mhm.
send back the top, let's say, 10
Mhm.
common autocompletes.
Mhm. They get okay. Alright. I see. Okay. When a user is typing on the client side, they get comment autocomplete. Okay. So this can be any type of client that might be using mobile, and the search engine could be a part of any product, or it's just one product.
Yeah, so let's say, this is, we're building the infrastructure for
Mhm.
said autocomplete system,
Mhm.
but that this system could be integrated with, for example, Google search. It could be integrated with, for example, Amazon product search or anything like that. So we're not really concerned about the specific data there, right? We
Mhm.
can assume that's provided, but this is we're talking about specifically about the infrastructure needed to serve the autocomplete suggestions to any client, which yes does include web and it does include mobile, if that is relevant to you.
Okay. Got it. So I guess I'll first start with how much, like how many users are going to be using this, like concurrently or like in a monthly active basis.
Yeah, so we can say there's about 10 million monthly active
Mhm.
users.
Okay. Um, let's see what else. Mm, so for example, when this product is like first being used and we don't really have an understanding of what's common in autocomplete for that, how do we suspect to get that? Um, is this going to be based on whatever product, like for example, Amazon search?
Yeah.
I guess we would fill in things based on what the website or the product is serving. So it could be Amazon relevant products, or it could be, I guess, Google in general. Um, okay. Mm, hmm. So just thinking about that. Um, does the common autocomplete get affected by whatever is trending or whatever is really hot?
It definitely can. It definitely
Mhm.
can. There can be a lot of factors to determine what the ranking should be.
Mhm. Uh, goodbye. Trending. So ranking of um, what kind of factors do we want to rank by? So I guess trending was one of them. So it could be something that's hot. What other factors could affect ranking? Like how many people actually, for example, select something? So like we
Yeah,
suggested something.
yeah. So one thing, so one, so we can start with like we can just start with two things for now.
Hmm.
The first thing is trending. Trending, we can assume there's an external API which just ranks all nouns or all words based on how hot they are externally.
Hmm.
So that's one
Hmm.
thing. Trending is a factor. And the second factor is how many other people are searching the same thing. How many people are accepting that auto complete suggestion?
Hmm. Um, Accepting, yeah, auto complete suggestion. Uh, okay. So this is what we want to kind of focus on for the ranking. Okay. Um, let's see. How many suggestions do we want to provide, like to the user based on whatever the like max per se?
We can do like five, five per
Okay.
search. Yeah.
5 suggestions per search. Um, when should this be triggered? Like right on the first letter, or should it be triggered maybe after some delay, or maybe after they write a first word? Just, I guess I'm asking this because to understand how frequently we will be sending signals back and forth to the back end to
Yeah,
get data. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good question. We can say after the first word. Let's put it that way.
Mhm. Start data suggestions. Word height. Okay. Can I think of anything else? Uh, I think each search suggestion, how large do you expect that to be? Um, Obviously not paragraphs, but like how large do we expect that to be?
Do you mean the autocomplete suggestion?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We can assume our
Okay.
average 10 words in total.
Average. From the suggestion. Okay. Mm, all right. Let's see. So I guess what I'd want to probably get at is do since the system will be kind of influenced externally and probably by whatever internally is provided for whatever product page that the search engine is at. So I'm guessing all the trending is going to be provided by whatever's uh, tool wants to use the search engine. Um, I guess this will obviously not be a consistent, like as in it will not get trending right away. It might be eventually, you might get the most trending. So it might be more available. So we just care about search engine providing generally like best suggestions.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fine.
that,
That's fine. Yeah.
okay. Um, Available. Okay, just wait. Um, let's see. Any other things? Um, I think for now, I think this might be a good starting point. Um, to kind of just flesh out some endpoints. Uh, and maybe how we will actually store some of these words
Okay.
or suggestions. Um, so let's go with rough endpoints. So I guess the first will be search. Um, and then search will be like the straightforward one, which will be whatever they typed or whatever they clicked as suggestion, that will be sent to the backend as a search. So this will take a query, probably something a string that they want to search. Um, let's say we're assuming this is just for Amazon for simplicity, then it would just be the query.
Okay.
But if this was like various other products, then we might have like uh the ID of the product that the search is for. So if this was if this was like Amazon or Google, hmm, I mean that's if we're providing search externally from the whatever product is uh So then this would help like figure out, okay, this is for Amazon search or Google. That's what I'm thinking.
That's fine.
Um,
Yeah, for now we
yeah.
can simplify and just assume that we're always just designing for. We can just presume it's for Amazon for now and not worry about that in the future design.
Okay, sure. Assume it's for Amazon. Okay. The other one would be suggestions. So this one would be like a post, and this could be like a get. So um, suggestions would just take whatever query we have so far, and it would return. I forgot to return a list of uh like suggestions. Options. Um, Search would actually return us. Okay, right. So this is something I kind of forgot earlier on. So when we're searching and the user uh presses one of the things and they actually send the search request, what do we expect to send back to the user? Do we want to send them links like Google does, or send them a bunch of relevant products? I guess in Amazon, since we're focused on Amazon, it would be sending them the most relevant products that they would want to see, and then the other services on Amazon would handle getting all the extra details for that.
I wasn't clear about your question. Can you repeat that?
So I guess, sorry about that. So just to clarify, for the search part, when the user um, submits their search,
Yeah.
what do we expect to return? So, for example, for Amazon, would it be just a list of product IDs that are most relevant?
Yeah, so that's
Uh,
outside the scope of the search engine. So we don't care
okay,
what's returned at that point. All we care about is providing the autocomplete suggestions.
okay, so we don't really care about this part,
Well, you
the
might need to
sampling
care
part.
about it for other reasons, but you don't care about what product is returned.
Okay, okay, so we don't really care about the return part here. Okay, um, I'll just write it out. All right. So how do we want to mm, do this? So do we want to also track? Um, so I guess we were going to track, for example, uh, sorry, one sorry, but okay, how many accepting that article suggestion on it? So I was thinking of starting with some of the schema for this, or like how would the data look like, in general, so then we can start also like keeping track of things like how many times a user accepted something. Um, so I was thinking that there might be, do we care about something like a search history, what people actually submitted as a search?
You will need that because you need to. One of your criteria is how many are accepting the autocomplete suggestion to use as the
Right.
weights.
Okay. So, search history. Um, okay. So I guess I'll get into some form of the schema um, to kind of flesh out what the data will look like. One of the things that we'll start with is just like a history of things that users searched. So this could be through some, I guess, does it really need an ID? Uh, sure. So it'll be a search history with some ID, just regular uh, key. There will be some query um, that will be put there, uh, and there will be some kind of weight. Let's say this is um, how many people accepted this. Uh, how many people accepted this suggestion? So I guess searches can have can be keyword or semantic. So are we focusing on both in this engine?
So in this case, we can simplify a bit and say it's keyword focused because
Mhm.
we're only we're only populating the first suggestion after a word is fully typed.
Mhm. Okay.
So we can focus on it for now. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So keyword search. All right. So uh I was thinking this query would, sorry, it might make more sense as a suggestion. So this would probably only keep track of explicit um, suggestions that we provided, and then they actually like that. Um, I don't know how right now this would fit, for example, if the user just wanted to search whatever they typed in. Um, so how many people accepted this suggestion? That would be one of the history. Let's see. Mm, what else? Mm, after the first word typed. Mm, okay, so there will be ranking of words. Um, are we going to be storing different combinations of, let's say, 10 words, uh, in, say, a like a vector database or something like that, that we will pull, or do we want to kind of structure like the 10 most common words into a suggestion? I guess the suggestion has to make some sense as well. So it can't just be like a random jumble of words
Yeah,
either.
it can't be pure keywords, but
Okay.
right, it
Mm-hmm.
can't be. It's the order of the words probably does matter.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say in this case to maybe help this
Mm-hmm.
along is, yeah, it's a keyword based search. You can use keywords to rely on for weights,
Mm-hmm.
but the solution like the return suggestions, the order do have to matter. So for this
Okay.
case, you might choose to. I mean, one thing you can do with your schema right now is you say, okay, we have some ID, doesn't matter. You have a
Mm-hmm.
string that's a pure suggestion, but you know to produce to but one thing you can maybe consider is to produce this suggestion, what would
Mm-hmm.
the user have had to type, right? So for example, would they have had to type uh, the first word,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's very popular, maybe you suggest it, maybe they had to type maybe 8 out of the 10 words, like the first 8 words, the first 8 prefix words of this 10 word suggestion before you suggest it, right? So maybe that's something to consider as well, is like under what condition do you show this particular suggestion and how that might relate to the weights.
I see. So, mm, okay. So you're saying like depending on what word was typed and when it was actually like how many words have to be really typed for this suggestion to be relevant. Let's see. Uh, wait. So right now we had wait as how many people accepted this suggestion. Um, you were saying how many words would actually have to be typed. Um, how would we model that?
We can use a quick example here to kind of clarify the thought, right? So
Hmm.
let's say I'm on the left here.
Yep.
So let's say we had a query, and the query is A, B, C, D, E, F, and then in our and we have, and let's not do it that way. Let's do this, make it even simpler. We have 2 words, A and B,
Hmm.
and then we currently have a couple suggestions we want to show. If there's 5 of them you want to show, but I'll just say we'll just have two. For example, first is A, B, C, 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 and the second one is A, B, C, D. Let's say it that way, right? And so here's the
Hmm.
thing: is how do we decide what order to put these in? One thing we can say is, let's say this suggestion has been accepted twice already,
Hmm.
right? So this has been accepted twice, two times before times, right? And
Hmm.
this one has only been accepted once,
Hmm.
one time. So the issue here is, no, it's not an issue. So the way we might tie break these two, the same prefix, is by using some weight, right? But let's say, for example, that we had like, this. Well, this is a worse match than this, even though it has more acceptances.
Hmm.
So we want to weigh this above just the times in this context for keywords.
I see. I see. Um, I guess so. You're saying that there will be like how many times accepted as a weight, but then maybe on the application layer there might be like a bit more. So like how many times does AB actually match that suggestion as well?
Yeah, yeah. So
Or
I mean, so
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, you probably have more in your schema to talk about, but I'm just letting you know that your schema right now will not be able to accommodate this essentially.
I see. So okay. So right now, if AB was used to query, for example, uh, suggestions that are matching, then they maybe return A, B, C, D, E, Z, C, C. But then we also want to rank them on how many words are actually matching. I see. Mm,
So there's keyword matching and then there's weight matching. One thing I will also say right now, if you
mhm.
want to, continue along, is you can assume there's a ranking service.
Okay. So just to kind of help me along, I can just assume that
Yes,
something
you
will
can
help me
assume
there.
that there's a ranking service, and we
Okay.
can dive into that more deeper later if we have time.
Okay. Um, okay. So I guess this would be suggestions, the way, um, how many people accepted this. There was externally API that ranks all words. So I guess um, we will also have rank of this. Um, this might be just some type of int that I guess will be provided by some external API that ranks all the words. Um, so is this ranking individual words or just full text?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I'm not sure I understand.
So this API, is it ranking the like full text, like I don't know, sentence?
You mean the API that we
Or
assume exists, the ranking API?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it could be any format you prefer.
Okay. Sounds good. Um, hmm. What else do we need in data to visualize? So trends are kind of external. Mm, keyword search. Hmm. Do you see any other thing that we need to model? I can't think of
One thing
anything.
that I do want to
Hmm.
check up on is that we might be missing. Like, I'm not sure about the endpoints. Do we need like? How do you plan on recording
Hmm.
that an autocomplete solution was taken?
Oh, right. So, okay. So this was get suggestions. This was the searching part. Um, I guess in the front end, what we could do is when someone searches, like let's say a query, we could also pass in like something where like just lets us indicate that this was a suggestion. So there could be a suggestion ID that could be passed as well. Um, that we generated. So either these are all like these are all suggestions that we have, and then we could in the backend just populate like uh add one to this. I
Okay.
guess that's one way. That's I think a simple way that we could do that.
Yep, that's fine.
Um, mm, is there anything else we want to flesh out here? That I might be missing.
Endpoints I think are fine.
Mhm.
We could proceed for now, but we might come back on how we plan on storing the specific strings. But we can move on for
Yep,
now to the architecture. Yep.
yep, sounds good. Um, so let's see. We'll have just a general client. Why can't um, mm, so we'll have some kind of client. We might have multiple. We're just focused on one right now. Um, and we have 10 million daily active users. So We might put a let's say we have some general things. So I'm just gonna put uh oh, also one other question. I think I missed this initially. Is this something that I'm assuming is global and is we want it regionally?
So the service is available globally, but you might have regional weights, but we don't need to consider regional weights for now. Like just assume it's global.
Mhm. Okay. So we might use some kind of load balancer. Um, or I guess um let's see. So we have this globally. We might have something that is going to help us figure out where to hit it, like what's the closest. It could be something like, I don't know, Route 53 that just sends the request either based on latency or just geographically closest. Um, that can help us kind of get those queries closest to the client.
Okay.
Um, then we'll have some kind of API gateway for the public endpoints. Um, so this is just read. Let's put that in black for now. So then we'll have, let's say, a initially we were going to get some suggestions. So we'll have some kind of um, uh, uh, suggestions service. So this can handle retrieving the suggestions that were sent by, like, are relevant to whatever the user searching. Um, and how will the suggestions get those? So what I was initially thinking was we, for example, let's see. Mm, so a user is searching something like AB, um, and it might have a lot of different like strings or suggestions. Something I was thinking was possibly a vector DB that kind of incorporates a lot of the weights that we want. So it could incorporate the accepted times. It could also help us search based on multiple different weights that we might have from, for example, externally ranks. So essentially, this is the type of database that would just take whatever string we put in there initially with additional metadata and just add a bunch of weights to that. So then when we get that um, essentially request from the client to get suggestions, we can send that to the vector database, asking it for the five most relevant. And we would get those five most relevant. We would also get the metadata. So when we retrieve something from this vector database, it would just be like numbers because they're just stored as numbers. But
Okay.
then we can use the suggestions table to actually pull out the actual string version of those. So I was thinking we would have some kind of vector DB. Um, this could be, I don't know, Pinecone or Kendra. I don't really have specific preferences there, but that's something that I can research given more time. What would be better, but right now, not too sure.
Okay.
Um, the other thing we would need is something that would actually store all the information of the string and the weights, maybe additional. This could be, I was thinking, could just be a document database. So we might have more metadata for each session that we want to store in the future. And it doesn't look like we're going to do many aggregation or joins on this database. So I think it might be better for just availability that we just have a database that could just be uh, know SQL in nature and just be present, uh, like more easily, and don't have to deal with other things with SQL or relational databases. So I was thinking that this could be just something like, I don't know, MongoDB or Dynamo. I'm most familiar with Dynamo, so I'll just go with that one. So this one, what we do is essentially read from the vector database, say query for 5 most relevant uh, strings. And then once we get that, we will actually ask the DynamoDB to get the metadata plus string form of uh, the IDs um, suggestions. Sorry. And that's what we would kind of return back to the client. Uh, let's see. How many people accepted this suggestion? So I think that kind of gets a rough
Okay.
understand how we will retrieve them. I think one other thing was the search endpoint. Before I move on, do you have any questions for this so far?
Yeah, so I want to just clarify where the
Mhm.
ranking service fits in here.
Right. So,
Is that for example, is that a separate asynchronous process, or is that
mhm,
in
yeah.
this tree here?
So I was thinking of so ranking service would just be something that would happen in the backend uh, asynchronously.
Okay.
It doesn't have to happen on every call because then that would slow down the call. So this could be something that would could sit back here, ranking. Um, and I think we did have some external vendor. Um, so essentially, what the ranking service would do is communicate with the. Uh, let me just put the arrow the other way. Um, it would communicate. Sorry, yeah, it would communicate with the external vendor. It would actually look at updating the ranking in the suggestion. So update ranking and add new suggestions. This would get suggestions. Um, maybe the vendor is just pushing it to us, or this is something we're polling. Um, there's like trade-offs on both. If we're polling, then we might miss more urgent trending words, like something hit the news. Uh, but that is more like sustained traffic. If we're doing something like push, so the external vendors pushing it to us,
Yep.
then we get it right away. So I guess there's a trade-off there, but what would be best if I guess if we want the most relevant trending information at all times, it might be best the vendor pushes it to us, um, and then we receive it and immediately take action. Um, do you have a preference?
No, that doesn't matter.
Um, okay.
One question here is like, you're updating the ranking in DynamoDB.
Yeah.
So is DynamoDB or is the vector storing
Mhm.
the ranking? Because you're querying that vector DB first.
So the so the okay, so what I was thinking is the DynamoDB would just have the suggestion and additional metadata. The vector DB doesn't really need to have all the metadata. The only so the vector DB would have the embedded string and
Yep.
it would have a metadata field that would only contain the suggestion ID. We don't need to store the weights in the vector DB. So essentially when we create the embedding, it would take the metadata as input. So when the ranking is getting suggestions, we would first like update or add whatever needs to be added into the DynamoDB for the new suggestion. And then what we'd have to do is actually update whatever embedding we had originally created in the vector DB. So we first delete that record and create a new embedding which would have the updated ranking. So then when we search whatever suggestions, then we get the most relevant weighted suggestion.
Okay.
And
Okay.
does that answer your
Yeah, that
question?
makes sense. Yeah, so the vector DB is doing the heavy lifting there with
Mhm.
matching the current weights, which is based
Yeah.
on which is from the which is I guess you're saying is push, or it doesn't matter push or pull from the ranking service. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
So
that means
yeah,
that you have one vector per search for per suggestion.
yeah. So
Okay.
we would have one vector per suggestion, and that would just be the vector database understanding of it, and it would just give us the IDs with it. So then we actually have some way to get the actual human readable
Okay.
version of that. So um, yeah. So that, I guess that helps with the ranking. Um, hmm, do we need to further optimize ranking for now? Not really. I mean, if there was a lot of uh, suggestions coming from the external database, I mean, vendor all the times, then maybe we could look into something like adding like a queue here so that this ranking can like slowly process all the jobs. Um, do we want to add that in here, or it's like
For the vendor side, we won't worry about that. We don't need
okay,
to worry too much about that. One thing I
okay.
did want to dive in on here about this about what we have here is what sort of performance characteristics we're looking at here.
Sorry, could you repeat the last part?
Yeah, so what sort of performance characteristics are we looking at here, right? So, one kind of follow up question to that might be, is this excuse me, is this architecture currently able to sustain what you have written here, the 10 million daily active users? That's the first question. And then the second question, depending how you feel about that first one, is if you were to scale up the number of users, how many users before the system starts not working anymore?
Mm. So I guess right now the way we have it is I don't think it will be able to handle 10 million. Because right now it looks like we're storing everything into this single vector database. Um, so it all depends on how we kind of separate these suggestions. So if it was, for example, all of Amazon's embeddings, these vector embeddings database would start to get quite large. So we may have multiple like replicas of this vector DB that the ranking system could potentially just push to, because these vector databases are mostly just um, read heavy, and they're going to only get updated from the ranking system. So it might be beneficial to one have so for example this load balancer, uh, it might be helpful to have like a database load balancer that these requests would go to, and then it could deal with forwarding to whatever other replicas of the vector DB we have. Um, I think that's what I'm thinking right now. Other ways to kind of break this suggestions off is based on, for example, easy one is like language. So what language are they typing in? Since this
Okay.
might be global, um, it could be based on the category of products maybe they're searching in. There could be a easy like um, way for us to figure out, okay, based on this query, what like product do they really are caring for? So it could be a lightweight um, system on the suggestions service side that could just like detect, okay, they're looking for this category, and then maybe based on the biggest categories, we would have a separate vector database, but most of them can be on the same one. So we can start to chip it away that way as we scale more users. Um, I think that's what I'm thinking. Let's see. So there will definitely be more than one version of this. I just didn't draw
Yeah.
uh, that in.
But would they be
Let's
going to
see.
the same? But would the different services and the let's say for example different suggestion services be going to the same DB load balancer?
Um,
guess the question here is
different.
like you're saying like one thing concern you have is about the size of the database, but what about the throughput?
Mhm. Right. So this would like help with the latency, but I guess when we're talking about throughput, so we'd have different instances of suggestion services. Maybe each, let's see, suggestion service would have its own, let's see, database load balancer. Uh, hmm. I guess initially we would start off with a single database load balancer. We might have just a few set of vector DB, and they might be in different regions or AZs. Uh, but then if we see that adds a lot of latency, if these are stored in a different area than the suggestion service, then we could add um, these replicas into those like closely to the service as well. So they each suggestion service might have its own set of DB load balancers, or a group of suggestion service might have their own. That might need some another service in between to figure out okay which load balancer it needs to communicate with. I think there's services for that, like I think maybe Zookeeper, but I'd have to look into that uh, to kind of help figure out what services are available for it to communicate to. Um,
Okay.
so that could help with the throughput, uh, and also making sure that the load balancer is configured to, I guess, uh, so if we care about throughput and then I guess the load balancer would be best to be based on like which services are like send it to the service that's least overloaded. So that would help. Um, that would kind of maybe slow down on latency, but the throughput would be better. So that's something we could do there. Um,
Okay.
yeah, there
Okay.
might be some other. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Just go ahead.
No, I was just saying like the ranking service could be updating a master vector database, but we could have uh, another uh, replicator that could essentially just handle either replicating the whole vector database consistent like constantly, or just looking at what ranking DB did. It could this all these update embeddings could be put into um like a SNS, I think, or just like some kind of way to let all the replicators know that oh this vector database needs to be updated in this way. And then we could have um all of them go to this, and then this could actually handle updating all of the databases um, that are read here. Um, that could be one
Okay.
way as well,
Okay.
uh, just to help speed up. Because if we scale too much and we have too many replicas of database, then it might be a lot for to be handled. Mm. So another thing would be if another way to short circuit going to the vector database would be to see how commonly or like to see if this kind of suggestion was already made. So there could be a cache at that point when we get like if we see that like if we see that through logs, okay, we keep suggesting the same thing, then we could then look into adding uh like some sort of Redis or I don't know any form of cache. I know this is string search, so it wouldn't make too much sense, but it could make sense if you have so there's like lightweight models that you could use to just do like really semantic related words. So if someone wrote, I don't know, a word wrong, but it really meant the same thing, and two people wrote the same thing, but just one of the spellings was wrong, then there's some like generally correct. So we could use the Redis cache to just send the suggestion back. So that's
Yeah.
another way. Um, I think that kind of covers it. So the other one was searching, right? Did you have any other questions before I move there?
No, go ahead. You can talk about that
Okay.
and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I think we're at 45 minutes, so I'll just quickly go through this. So the search service, I think what we cared about search service was the putting in when someone would essentially click a suggestion. So let me actually put it above here, and I'll just put this down here. Sorry. Okay, five. This will go to the search service. The search service will actually search whatever. Um, I guess I'm going to just focus on just updating the new accepted suggestion ID since we're short on time. So this will just focus on updating the the how many people accepted the suggestion.
Okay.
Uh, Now that I'm seeing that, okay, two services are depending on the same table, what we could have is the humanized string version stored in a separate database, and then the weights related to it stored in a different uh, database, so that because the ranking only cares about updating the ranking and doesn't really care about seeing all the other string human format, and the suggestions only cares about seeing the human format. And
Yeah.
maybe it would actually, yeah. So I think that might help. Like, so let's put this as the uh, human string. I don't have a good word for it, but and then Berkeley string weights. So yeah, this, and then we'd update the weight here if we've already know about this. If it's a new string, we would have to update the human string, like add new string. Um, we would also have to get the string ID for it. So that might be a little tricky that I actually missed on the ranking side. But do we want to delve into that or just call it a
No, we're out of time.
yeah, yeah, makes sense. Okay, thank
Great.
you.
Let's talk about that. Let's
Mhm.
talk about that. I mean, where did you start? Where do you think you fell in this one? So some things were good, some things were bad. How do you feel? What was good? What was bad?
So I kind of felt stuck in the beginning. So that's especially around the schema. Maybe because I was trying to think of like, oh, how do we? It's like, if you think about word search in terms of algos, it's like just tries. But then when you think about it in like real context and like this scenario, it's kind of harder. So I was getting stuck. How do you send those words or uh, like put them in the schema? The other part was maybe um, the weights kind of tripped me a little bit, but then you helped me with the example, so that was nice. I think on the design part, I was a bit more comfortable, but getting the right half of the endpoints or schema was where I was getting most of my time sucked into. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm in
Mm-hmm.
agreement with that. I think the main thing here is that time was a bit tight at the end there. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the kind of follow-ups you'll be asking regarding performance, you might not have time to go for the search service.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I will also say is that you were on a pretty good roll at the beginning in terms of asking the functional and non-functional questions.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that was implied, but I don't think you picked up on, is the fact that these are human words and not random strings,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Right.
that means there's a very strong hierarchy of frequency for words. There's a very strong hierarchy for
Mm-hmm.
sentence structure,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there are, and what that means, and why that's important is, I mean, and you are right about the intuition using trees, tries, right? Trees for using, for encoding this information.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just might not have been obvious to you how
Mm-hmm.
that jump should have been to use tries in this problem as well, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now, the vector DB solution is also okay. That's a very offloaded solution to essentially give them what's going on. But here's the thing, right? Is And in the solution, and in the problem statement we gave, vector DBs are okay. They're not great, but they're okay. And why it's okay is because there's at most 10. On average, there's 10 words per suggestion.
Mhm.
That's not too bad to encode, right? Where
Mhm.
does that break down? That breaks down to, for example, let's say average is 10, P99 is 100 words, right? Like for like again, right? Generalization, right? This is a search service, autocomplete service we're making. Of course, no
Mhm.
one's typing 100 words in Google search, but what if it's like a documentation search for like some other service, right? Then you might need 100 words to describe it. Whereas the P99
Mhm.
may be 100 words. Well, then that would the worst case performance for querying vector DBs would be very very terrible, right? So you got to keep that in mind.
Right.
Why? So one way you can think about this is, well, why didn't you cache that? So I can't speculate very much, but what I will say is that I think if you assume things, it's good to just check it, right? So for example, are we assuming these are regular humans typing regular human sentences in the search, right? What are the type of things that we trying to do with the search, right? And you had a good intuition about that when you're trying to encode the product ID in the search query, like, hey, which service are we searching? Are we searching on Google? Are we searching on Amazon? What are we going for? Right? That would have been a
Mhm.
good way to disambiguate what's going on, right? And we simplify the problem, so that's okay. It's okay to get rid of it,
Mhm.
but you had an intuition for that, and I'd say that intuition is actually really quite important, exactly for the reason that we would use a tree in this solution. The tree is, most people would consider the tree optimal. You can argue otherwise, but where a tree would look like for encoding this information is each word is a node, right? And then the weight on each node, or you can call it the edge, the edge weight, you can call it a graph even, right? The edge weight would just be how hot that edge is right now. Why
Mm.
that would be,
I see.
why that might be preferable is because, look, we are already saying we're breaking out the ranking service, right? The ranking service can very very easily, uh, it can very very easily update the edge weights asynchronously, right?
Mhm.
Like that, like you could even encode the node values and then edge weights in separate tables if you wanted to even save on that kind of read write discrepancy. But so there's a lot of different ways to kind of solve this problem. A try would have been one of the ones that you could argue for much more easily, because you can
Mhm.
predict that certain words will be grouped together more often. You can predict that your worst case latency is not very bad, because you know having one long word does not affect the performance of all the other shorter words, which is more common, right? Only 10 on average.
Mhm.
And one more thing I'll say is, about your specific DB choice here, which is fine. I think there's a couple things that was missing explicitly, right? Regarding performance, this is right. So this aside from correctness, um, the sharding strategy needs to be a lot more explicit here,
Mhm.
right? So you talked about, okay, you have a load balancer, and you talked about Zookeeper as well, which is great. But we didn't talk about is like, how are we actually using these databases? Obviously, now tomorrow if I say, okay, we have 2x more users, 5x more users, are you just increasing the number of databases? Okay, then what's on the data? Like what's actually in the storage, right? So I think one thing that you could really show interviewers that you know what's going on about these databases is by being
Mhm.
very explicit about the encoding and being very explicit about the sharding, like horizontal sharding, right? So
Like
go ahead.
languages based on that, or like
Yeah, so
uh
yeah, so
mhm.
languages is one thing, right? But is that but and that is one way to shard, but is that sufficient, right? The
Right.
vast majority of the internet right now, at least, is still in English for these search engines.
Mhm.
So yeah, great, you share your languages, and maybe some other languages like maybe French or German, moderate languages, but don't scale as largely, right? But
Mhm.
English is much bigger, and so if all your English sentences are still on one database, that's still not going to work, right?
Right.
and this
Mhm.
and this should be a signal to you. So there's two things that you can notice. The first thing you can notice is this: uh, we need to shard based on the actual sentence or the string, and not just based on some metadata like the language, right? The second thing you might need to notice is that vector DBs might not be the right choice if you have high sharding requirements. One thing you could say, right? For
Mhm.
example, okay, let's say you're storing a vector. We can shard based on the first number, right? First number, or you can shard. Yeah, I think first number would be the most. Like say we shard based on the first dimension, right? Great.
Mhm.
And then that's one way to do it. But what that would mean is that you would have to encode, like you would like before you even go to the DB load balancer, you would have to already make a DB query yourself to figure out what dimension it's on. Like what is the first number? Like how do we encode this search query, which is a string by the way, into
Mhm.
your numbers, right? So that would not be too cheap, right? And let's say,
Right.
okay, great, and now let's say with a shard English even more. So you maybe shard by the first two dimensions, right? So you have 100 databases, let's say, um, right? Well, then that's 2 DB reads immediately off the spot, right? So that's not like super super great. It could be okay, but it's not like super super great, right?
It-
For example, where a try would avoid those initial reads to improve latency would be that you would just store the strings themselves right in the nodes. All right, and then and there's assumptions you make there. How long are the words? We didn't get to that, but it didn't really matter, right? So that would be one part where again the P99 performance would be better because you'd be saving yourself
mhm.
reads before you even do any queries, right? So there's a detail there.
So like using a graph database to store the try, and then in each node you'd have the word ranked or the string, like the suggestion ranked, I guess.
It would be essentially so two things. It would be the word. Each
Right.
node would be a word, and you would traverse down the
To a
the, the, the
suggestion.
graph based on the highest like whatever you define the highest lowest edge weights. The best edge weight,
Hmm.
right? And then you find your suggestion that way. Now again, right? So two things there again is why that's more scalable in this context. What I just described is because you can shard a try very easily based on the first the first word, right? Words that
Mm.
start, let's say words that start with S, very very common, right? Words that start with S, maybe that's its own database. Words that start with maybe W, that's not common. Maybe actually what is a common word, right? Like maybe like X and Y Z. Maybe put X Y Z all in the same database. Maybe that one's like not high prio, right? So
Mm.
and then say, oh, okay, great. Now even S is too big. Well, then you can still shard based on the first two characters of the word, right?
Mm.
So that's a much
Hmm.
more natural way, and it's a free way. You incur no penalty on that sharding because you don't need to make any reads to figure out what database to go to ahead of time, right? Like that's known.
Hmm.
So that's one potential benefit, right? So there's a lot of these things that I think would have been worth considering, at least calling it out, right? Calling it
Hmm.
out, and then at least that way the interviewer knows, oh, you know about tries, you know what's going on. You just made a incorrect decision based on some other information. Um,
Right. Okay.
so it's just a balancing that. It's a balancing act, right?
Mhm.
Great, and then let me have a look at my other note here. So yeah, and that what I just said there was mostly about the text properties, right? What are the properties of the text here? If you're going for random words, random strings, then I agree vector is probably best. Otherwise, the branching factor of the try would be just way too big. But right, but that's something you could have clarified ahead of time.
Right.
Let's take a look here. So another one I had here. This is not as relevant anymore, I don't think, but I put a note down which was that when you were working on the endpoint design, you seem to index a lot on the product ID, which is, for example, on Amazon in this case, right? Um,
Hmm.
we're not really designing the search service per se. Like we're not designing what they're going to return. All we really want is like once they accept one, in addition to what it returns, we want to send a post request or whatever you want to call it, put request to our service, our endpoint somewhere, which will to keep track of this data point. That's it, right? So be very very clear and precise about what we're actually designing, and don't overextend the scope.
Right. I guess I could have just assumed the search was just another API, but then I mixed it with the query actual search and putting the suggestion ID in there. It could have just been our own like update metric or something. I see. Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Hmm.
Great. Okay, that's all on my side. Any questions on your side before we end it?
Uh, mm, no, I guess no further questions. I might follow up maybe later if I have more. But yeah, thank you.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for participating. Then take
Yeah.
care.
Yep. Take care. Thank you.
All right. All right. All right. All right. Where is this? right. We'll be starting resume reviews very shortly. All right. All right. Let me see what's going on. Let me see what is going on. Did I look at this guy? What the hell is this? Where is the form? Where is my form? What's going on? Boom. Okay, where is my stream? Alright, we're gonna chill a little bit. Wait for some submissions to come in. Dude, my job might be hella easy today. No one submits anything. I might actually look at what's his name? Wait, what is this thing? Yeah, I might look at some resumes from the Discord as well if we don't get submissions. Let me start with that. What's it called? Resume. Okay, here's one. Let's take a look at this guy. Okay. So, Satoru Gojo, good to see you. This is okay. So like in third year kind of area, third year, fourth year. Relevant coursework, some stuff here. Okay, it's minor economics by the way, so keep that in mind. Okay. You seem to have a lot of stuff here, so I'd probably get rid of the coursework if you have a lot of stuff. Um, Project one, a lot of projects. Okay, so let's take a look here. Project one, Nginx. Okay, so this is okay, interesting. Nginx and Docker, interesting. Okay. Create full stack app, track, analyze key economic indicators with the goal of educating consumers about economics. Dynamic Vue.js frontend, Char.js, 20,000 data points. Okay. Django backend use authentication forecasting. Implemented TensorFlows, LSTM for predictive analysis, analytics. Less than 0.0. Okay, 8%. 8%. Okay, is that good? I can't. I don't. I'm not really in that field. 8% feels a bit high. No. Maybe I don't understand. Docker, AWS, optimize performance, reducing estimate. Okay, okay. Okay, I see. Yeah, I'm not. I don't. So I don't really see Nginx over here. These seem like just regular things. Like this is a good point. Some cost consciousness, some 20 regression tests. That's good. That's fine. Some front end. Now, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not super clear what the back end is doing here. To be honest with you. Like, yeah, user authentication. Like, you have user. I understand user authentication. I don't understand what a forecasting API would look like here. I guess, but I mean, if it's just for the checkbox, I'm cool with that, right? I'm cool with that. Let's be real. I'm cool with that. Good stuff. Product two, create a Google Docs like full stack web app, React.js, dynamic communication, blah blah blah. Scalability for up to 7,500 concurrent users. That's pretty good. Integrated advanced word completion feature for okay, that's a lot of stuff. But tries okay. Okay, hash map. Okay, nice. Enhance user experience by reducing average documentation creation from 10%. Okay, this feels good. This feels good. Yeah, this is nice. I like that. Let a team of 5 developers create a platform that 40,000 university students discover, connect with professors. Architected full stack solution, React, Fast API, multi-threading, processing, implementation, semantic, blah blah. Okay. Connect with professors based on research interests during a hackathon. That feels chill. I think these do need dates though, right? This is DeepSeek. This is probably like reverse chronological. So, Python-based GeoSpatial spatial data pipeline, K-means clustering, categorize flight path coordinates. Okay. Sorting. Okay, I think this is good. That makes sense. The second point here I think is quite strong. Let's look at these. Anything here that's weird? No, these all look fine. Lowercase s2, huge. Huge. Capital P here, also huge. Okay, yeah, this is fine. Main thing here, of course, is just to continue to align with what job posts you're looking at, right? So, for example, if you're looking at full stack stuff, the backend here is a bit weak, right? The backend here is a bit lacking. That's where I would probably focus on, right? Like fast API Django, that's fine. The Django was a bit weak. The Django seems to be only have the Django, your user authentication, yeah, that's good. Forecasting, MySQL, REST API. I mean, like, right. So the question is like, what REST APIs do you need to visualize data? Because right, what I'm envisioning is that you send the data points to the front end, and then the front end, does some wrangling and does some visualization, right? Because for example, Chart.js. I know about Chart.js. I haven't used it, but I've used things like, for example, D3.js, right? Any D3.js enjoyers. If you're using D3.js, it doesn't make sense for the backend to be selectively serving data points to the front end. And let's be honest here, 20,000 data points. If we assume that each of these data points is a float, that's like 20 kilobytes. Like that's like a small payload. You know, 20 kilobytes, 100 kilobytes, 200 kilobytes. Let's say your web app itself. You're serving Vue. Vue minified is like 50 kilobytes, isn't it? So, I think this might have been a misalignment of technology here. But I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that regardless of the technology being used here, I don't really see value in what Django's doing here. So I think this might have been this I think would be a signal that the back end skills here are a bit lacking because there's nothing else on this resume about that. Okay. We have a resume for today. Let's take a look. I usually do these on Saturday. I had to change it last minute this week, so that's why, but let's take a look. Okay, so UT, Bachelor Science, Comp Sci, relevant coursework. Okay, some stuff here. 2025 December. Okay, so you're fourth year then, right? If you're in fourth year, I probably wouldn't be advertising intro to databases and a course called Programming on the Web. But let me see. So we have one experience here. Okay, corporation. This is like 3 years ago now. Optimize Python, Golang, wealth management, data pipelines, reducing processing time by 10% data sets, 500K transactions. Okay. Develop unit integration, automated testing, and PyTest, reducing defects by 3%. Okay. Automated QIC data validation, onboarding errors by 20%, SQL queries, secret extreme. Okay. The clever agile team. Okay. So I think there's a couple things here. Right? A couple things here. So the first thing I'll say is, okay, the first point has some content. I wouldn't really be talking about writing unit and like I wouldn't really be talking about writing test here, to be frank with you, because it seems like the first point could be expanded upon more. Like you should be expanding upon like the how, right? You optimize it. How do you optimize it? Did you rewrite code? Did you use a better library, right? Like that would be a much more interesting follow-up point than saying you wrote unit tests, right? And also, it's harder. Like, how do you measure reducing defects from your unit test? I think that's a bit suspect. But either way, I don't think this point is nearly as descriptive as if you had expanded upon the first point. This point makes sense. That's fine. This point makes sense. It's also fine. This point is a bit weak, right? This point, like these 2 points, are a bit weak. They don't really say anything. They're kind of like they're kind of implied, right? If you work at a company that does software, you're gonna be doing stuff. Like it doesn't. I don't think it's important to say that it's agile. That's not very important. In other words, you should be looking at how should be talking about things that indicate skill, or that indicate things that you do are good, right? Like you had. Like, of course, I believe that of course, no problem. You were agile. You doing stand-ups. You doing planning. Doing retrospectives, but that doesn't make this any good, right? Like everyone could do that. That's not new, right? So, I think that would be that's not worth any real estate compared to talking more about the first point. Okay, projects. So no dates. So why are dates important? Dates are important because this is by the time right now it's 2.5 years ago. By the time you blink 2 months later, this is 3 years ago now, right? If this is 3 years ago, we want to make sure the projects are new, right? They're up to date, right? Otherwise, you just got a straight 3 year gap, and you got to explain that somehow, right? So that's actually important to have that here. Okay, so Pluggo. Okay, cross-platform plugging app. I don't know what plugging is. Hope it's not important. Integrated social media features for users to share progress, create community, active. Okay, okay, okay. Implement image classification system to lead to the literature. Okay, different actions. Okay, I understand this. This is like the first. This is like the first point here. Right, like this is like the first point here of like some technical stuff you've done. Makes sense. Uh, yeah, makes sense. Okay, built the backend with Flask. I mean, okay, MongoDB, score user data, TV logs, data detail. Okay, okay. Built the backend with Flask, MongoDB, okay. So this is like a supporting point for this one, basically. You utilize agile methods. Okay, okay. I would not put that in there, frankly. Okay. So this is just app, has some storage, has some authentication, I presume, or social media stuff. Okay, this is pretty standard stuff. Okay, moving on. Chat roulette. Okay, real time chat, text chat platforms using React Next.js, implementing largely reusable UI components for Figma designs. Figma designs, interesting. Okay, engineer low latency WebSocket based chat system with Socket.io Express.js resume. Okay, okay. Show high system reliability. Okay, so okay, that makes sense. Now, one thing I didn't see here is Docker. So if right, so one thing I maybe want to clarify here is that like if this is a group project and you only did part of it that doesn't involve these two things, don't put them down there. Right? That's not something that you worked out. Don't do it. Right? Otherwise, I think this stands up by itself. Right? Otherwise, that's not gonna be there. And if it is collaborative, it's okay to say so. Otherwise, people will also ask you, why are you making Figmas for your projects? Right? People are gonna think that this could be a hackathon. Okay. Fitness app. Design backend infra for what is that? Fitter. Oh, that's your name. Okay. Fitter 6-person agile team. Flask Firebase. Okay. Implemented Firebase authentication. Reducing login failures by 30%. Compared to what? And optimizing database schemas to improve efficiency by 25%. Compared to what? Right? Like these are relative data points. It's compared to what? Like reducing login failures by 30% compared to like not having the feature? No, that can't be right. Compared to not using Firebase for authentication? Well, we didn't say what. Right? And you optimize database schemas to improve efficiency by 25%. Well, guess what? You designed it. You designed the database, right? So what was it before? So why was it bad the first time, right? Like this is all relative, right? It's relative. Develop RESTful API. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, you can put it in. That's fine. Microservices based e-commerce system. Okay. User product order services Java Postgres SQLite. Why do you have both? Whatever. Flask based load balancer. I don't know if Flask has a load balancer. Okay, interesting. Optimizing inter-service communication with certain API security. Okay. While ensuring secure API interactions and data integrity. I'm not sure how that is being accomplished. Is there something special about your Flask-based load balancer that ensures this? Optimized Postgres indexing for high-volume transactions. Implemented RESTful APIs with data persistence layers and transaction management. Okay. Implemented RESTful. Okay. Okay. Skills. It's fine. Yeah. I think. Okay. So the assessment here is that you have the check marks. You have the check marks, but it lacks depth. Right. Now let me read your comment to understand this better. Okay, let me just read this. Okay, just full stack software. Understand. Okay, yeah. So again, right. So the main thing here is going to be like it's same as always. So you have the check marks. Okay, little mobile. That's good. Little React. Next is a good bonus. Next is pretty popular these days, right? But React is good, obviously. And then this is a just excuse me, just a Java, kind of backend kind of thing. Um, there's kind of two things I want to kind of clarify here. Why does that say dates are important? Dates are important because right now you got a 3 year gap. That's why dates are important. The second thing that's important is because dates can help you understand what was a hackathon, what was not a hackathon. Right now, this is a hackathon, and this looks like a hackathon, right? That why is that an important distinction? Because if it wasn't a hackathon, for example, let's say for example these weren't hackathons, right? If for example you write like a multi-month project here, for example, then I would say, oh, there actually might be some content over here, right? There actually might be some depth in this kind of project. There's something going on, right? If we were to pass this resume, we could definitely question that in the behavioral. We can see what's going. There's something to talk about, right? Otherwise, if they read these kind of thing, they're gonna say there's no depth here. Like this is just a check mark on the resume, blah blah blah. That's not a positive, sign. So it's just a caution about the kind of image you're portraying. That's all. It's just like picking up liquor. Plog is litters during jogs. Okay, I see. Wow, I didn't know there was a word for that, to be honest. All right, let's look at this guy. All right, this guy's comment. Any entry-level position to get my foot in the door. I'm going to be graduating within the next semester. Don't feel like I have a ton of experience, but some nonetheless. Okay, interesting. Oh, it has some more comment. I want a role where I can actually work on my skills, anything new grad. I have a key interest, especially when it comes to computer vision, machine learning, but I honestly just want to work any sort of upper experience. So I don't know what upper experience means, but I'm a fourth year student. I have a handful of good courses I've taken, which were purposely taken for their difficulty. Okay. I want to just say something real quick. I don't even know what school you're from. Let me actually check that so I can check myself. University of Rich People. Okay, I understand now. Yeah, so look, you should be taking courses not because they're difficult. You should be taking courses because they are helpful, or the course is not helpful. The people are helpful, right? If you want the truth of the matter, no university course is difficult compared to like actual problems, right? The set of people in your quote unquote difficult course can pass the course, right? So that puts essentially a cap on the realized difficulty of said courses, right? And that's not to downplay the difficulty. I'm sure they were hard, but it's just a misalignment of priority, right? Like don't take courses that are hard because they're hard. Take courses that are hard because they actually do something that causes them to be hard, right? Okay. Anyways, let's look at the resume otherwise. So okay, that's fine. So we have a startup. This is again, this is like 3 years ago now. This is more than that. This is so yeah, they're graduating this semester. Makes sense. We have some GitHubs and dates. Like it. Some stuff here. Please split C and C++. Okay. Developed and deployed a responsive website loaded. Blah blah blah. Okay. Wait, what? Okay. No, I can believe this honestly. That's fine. Let's just keep going. But I'll say why are people hesitant. People are hesitant because, uh, responsive websites are good. Can a responsive website by itself increase user engagement 25%? I guess it really depends, right? So, some products are very visual, then I could definitely believe that. Some products are not visual, then that'd be hard to believe. Design and implemented dynamic pricing calculator within a website, allowing users to estimate service costs accurately, which reduce manual inquiries. Oh, okay, by 30%. Design implemented dynamic pricing calculator on the website. So I would say this question does not convey the depth of the calculator, right? So what kind of calculator? So let's say easy calculator would be, for example, a grocery bill estimator, or for example, it could be something like tax estimator. Those are easy calculators, right? What would be a harder one? A harder one would be, for example, a CPI a personal inflation calculator. It could be like a optimal credit card to get for a certain spending habits calculator. So those would be more involved. That would be more impressive. So I think you need to clarify what are you calculating, right? Because if you're leading on the design and implemented part, that would hold a lot more weight if the calculator actually has something to design, right? If you're talking about a tax calculator with 3 inputs and 2 numbers as output, there's nothing to design there, right? You just do it. So that's why the context is important. Improve team productivity by leading training sessions and providing regular updates to trainer. Okay, this point's a bit air. This point's a bit air, but that's fine. Increase user engagement. Is this another web design? Okay, this is okay. Increase user engagement 20% integrating reflects them all. HTTP, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's fine. Improve company visibility by implementing open source. Okay, that's fine. Developed a full stack application using Hugo framework. Okay, so I would say this needs to go first. And you shouldn't be talking about this. You should be talking about what you built, like what is in that Hugo system that you were building. That would be much more important than just telling people that you got front end back end experience. Yeah, so these are the courses you're talking about. If this is U of T, no one will take you seriously. If this is Waterloo, some people might take you seriously, especially regarding if you're taking like an upper level DSA course, like especially the copy CNO path, a CNO, I guess you call it stream. Is it called streams at Waterloo? That will be good. I don't see that here, right? Computer vision, ML, AI, simulations modeling. Simulations of modeling could be good as well. But again, the expertise there is not really in the course content. It should be in the projects or other demonstrated experience that you have with it, right? So let me take a look at the projects now. Okay, so like about a year ago is the most recent project. No, this is more recent. Oh, this is reverse chronological. Is this reverse? No, this is correct. Okay. A bit weird, but maybe there's a reason for that. We'll take a look. So, okay, so like some stuff that's decently recent. Okay, that's fine. Panoramic image stitching tool, panoramas coming. Okay, tool, stuff like that. Like it, that's good. Yep. Develop a panoramic image stitching tool, Python using SIFT or okay, blah blah. Okay. Homography. I don't know what that is. That's cool. Or ransack and conjure. Okay. Optimize image blending with linear blending and feathering to create seamless panoramas with high visual quality. Okay, high visual quality. Okay. I'm not sure how visual quality is classified, to be honest with you. But that sounds good to me. That sounds good to me. Melody Mate, instrument tuning tool for musicians. Flutter app, chromatic tuning, configure personal settings, Firebase. Okay. Ensure 100% data security. Okay, so I mean, just a bit of the wording here. I would say improving customization makes sense. Ensuring security, while it may be true, which I don't think it is, but while it may be true, I don't think it's worth putting here because you didn't do anything about that, right? It's 100%. Let's say it's 100% secure, not because you made it, but because Google made it, right? It's nothing to do with what you did. So I'd say it's like you can understand what's being communicated here, right? Enhance user experience by designing a responsive UI with real-time feedback, local storage, remember login details. Wait, what? Local storage to remember login details. Are you storing passwords on the app? I don't understand this one. Do you mean you can remember the username? Oh, okay, maybe that's what you mean. Like remember username. Okay. Reducing overtime at 30%. Okay, sure. Sure. Real estate price prediction model, PyTorch price prediction. Identified accuracy limitations in a linear regression model for housing prices, addressing PyTorch. Okay. Okay. Streamline data pre-processing and normalizing features. Blah 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 blah. Okay, that's fine. Flask web app for real-time housing price predictions. Hold on, real time. Yeah, if you're talking about real time, you gotta What? How is it real time? Seaborn. Okay, Seaborn and Matplotlib. Interesting. Okay. You created an ML model, data pre-processing for real time. Okay, I'm calling it real time. How is it getting real time data? That's not being communicated here. So I would say that's something you might want to consider getting rid of. Otherwise, okay. So what was your note again? Your note is computer vision, machine learning, any sort of your experience. Okay, machine learning. If this is your experience, I will not over-index on machine learning. Okay, computer vision. This looks pretty solid, right? This looks pretty solid. So maybe you could look at computer vision. That could be a thing. Now that's obviously a much smaller market, so don't get your hopes up, to be honest. But this seems like a real thing, right? Now obviously you would have to the devil's in the details. People who are hiring for CV, they would definitely be looking at your project to see like what quality we're actually talking about here, right? Um, general, but general employment wise, you have Hugo here. You have front end here, right? What did you have here again? No, no, this is not front end. This is this is a front end, but this is like a just a well you I mean you could do a calculator on the front end, but it's mostly like a calculation based thing, right? So this isn't. So what I'm getting at is the experiences are a bit limited, right? I would say full stack is probably a pretty safe, not safe, but probably the best chance that we can look at here. It looks like you have a lot of these skills already. Um, it's a bit tough. This is web development, so I'd say okay, you got to get a real backend framework here, right? You had Flask, right? You had Flask. I don't understand what Flask was doing in this thing. Like this sounds like it could just straight up be like why is there Flask? I don't understand that. Like this is a prediction model. Who are we serving this thing to, right? So I would say right now the main thing about this thing is that it's indexed a bit in ML, it's indexed a bit in computer vision. You have some front end experience. It's a bit all over the place, right? It's a bit all over the place, and there's not much depth. So I would say, employment purposes, pick one and go deep in them, right? So if you really like MLCV, okay, great. Do a resume that's just full of those projects, showcase your skills. And then I would say also for your insurance purposes, you should be getting one that's like a full stack project, full stack web app, right? So if you want to expand on this one, you can expand on it, right? So maybe something you could do would be, for example, you have the backend, great. You have some machine learning, that's great. Let's have people be able to log in, upload their custom housing data sets for their region, or maybe they have their own properties they own. They want to track the history of that. But let people configure that, right? You can have a more interactive front end. Make the front end have D3.js visualization, right? You could do it. You could do more expansion there, right? So there's a lot of things you could do to make it more of like a full stack front end back end separation kind of thing there, right? And then of course I see you have GCP Docker, right? Talk about that. Talk about the deployment cycle. Talk about the reliability. That could be something that's worth talking about as well. So there's some details here that you can definitely expand on. All right, next guy. All right, so this guy's comment is, I am a full stack dev, experienced in backend and cloud. Made improvements on the resume based on last review. Let me know any issues. Mainly seeking career advice. Graduated CS 2023. Stuck in Gov. I can get out. What should I target? I can't get out. Okay. What should I target? Maybe I should go back for masters. What can I do? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I remember this one. Okay, so yeah, I mean, look, the resume. I'm not gonna read the resume. Career advice. I think right now the big thing here is figuring out where your bottleneck is. Right. So you are how long have you been in industry? Let me calculate. You graduated 2023. When did you get employed? May 2023. Oh, so you were employed here during graduation, startup. Okay. And then right after that, you went full time. So you were employed since February 2023. So you have 2 years experience, right? You have 2 years experience is what you have basically. Okay, great. So that 2 years of experience, there's kind of there you're kind of at the tipping point between junior and intermediate, and you need to evaluate what side of that what side of that blade you're on, right? So look, I mean, I'm not gonna read this again. I know what's going on here. If people see this resume and they see you have exactly 2 years of experience, which you do, right? They're gonna lean you on the more junior side, right? That's the issue right now. So I would say there's two things you can do. One thing is get your promotion at this government organization, right? And then you can laterally switch externally. Right now, if this is your responsibility list and your title, I don't know your title exactly, maybe you have the title over here, but if your title is not clearly saying intermediate, non-entry level kind of role, you're going to be put in the pool of all the new grads and juniors, right? Not good right now. I would say if that's the situation, don't bother trying, but don't focus on trying, right? Focus on getting that promo first. That's what I would say. Okay, that's the first thing, career wise. Second thing is related. Second thing is about when you do look at the switch, what's going on. First thing there I would say is the first thing that I would say is quite simply get your numbers straight, right? So what do I mean by that? how many leads are you getting externally? So how many reach outs from recruiters? How many people are are your friends or your connections, your colleagues, your past colleagues, whatever it may be? How many of those people do you have at companies that you would want to work at? Right? Get your numbers straight and say, hey, I think I'm in a position where I would have a decent chance of getting through the door now. Now it's my time to reach out, go to these events, go to the hiring events, go to whatever it might be, reach out to my connections, get them to refer me, right? Once you're ready to make that leap, that should be the next step. The issue right now with cold applying is you don't have the experience, you don't have the title to back it up, frankly, like 100% honest, right? And the second thing is that if the market does improve and within the next year, let's say within the next 8 months, let's say I don't know how the schedules work at this government organization, right? But let's say within the next 8 months to 12 months, you're gonna get that promotion, right? It's not really worth applying right now and getting rejected because you're gonna be put on cooldown, right? Like you're gonna be put on cooldown. Most companies right now, like Fang, it's like 8 months cooldown. Could be some are longer, right? So if you're gonna be put on cooldown before getting promotion, then you just wasted your time. Like that's all it is, right? So you gotta be real. So if you feel you can get that promo within 8 months, let's say, and looking at how you've been here for a year and a half now, right? Right, about a year and a half. Hey, maybe 2 year mark, maybe you get that promo, then look to hop for intermediate level roles. That could be a lot more fruitful. The resume, by the way, the resume itself is fine. Like it doesn't really matter to be completely honest with you. Like the level of stuff I saw this last time, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. Okay, great. Um, okay, this guy, it must be new, but I see you have. I mean, yeah, your first name's not redacted. That's fine. I'll let it go. I don't think you'll be copyright striking me. Um, excuse me. Okay, so this guy's comment is trying to get AI ML machine research engineering job internship. Ooh, interesting. Okay. Don't use vertical bars. Kaggle, GitHub. Uh, that's definitely not how you spell sklearn. Okay. 2025. So you're going to graduate very soon. If you're graduating in March 2025, you won't be able to do an internship. So I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what you're getting at with the internship remark. Okay. Your project here. Okay. Flat trade predictor model. You have something here. Okay. 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 You have one work experience. Um, okay. All right. So this is a bachelor's. Okay. All right. So a couple high level things. That's looking pretty rough. We need to clean some things up. First of all, is the organization here is just not quite there. So if you're going for AI ML, you have to have two resumes. You have to have one for industry and one for research, right? Why does that matter? That matters because for further research, people really care about different things than getting employed in the industry. It's a different advertisement. Okay. What would that look like high level? The first thing is it's like you don't have enough content for 2 pages. This is not 2 pages worth of information, right? Um, for example, if you're going for research, you don't need to talk about React Native, right? Like React Native is that like that's not relevant. And maybe developer tools you can keep. I would also not. I would also wouldn't call Kaggle, Firebase, and Hugging Face developer tools. And in general, I wouldn't advertise developer tools. Like this is implied. If you make these products, it's implied that you can be productive. So I'd say, in general, you can get rid of that entire column. Um, Organization here is a bit weird. I don't understand why the date is at the bottom left. That makes it look like it's not part of the same thing, right? Just put the date over here, like a normal entry. These things should have dates, okay? It's like if these are all papers. What's a paper? What is this? No, this is a project. These are papers. Oh, is it a paper? What is this? This is a model. This is a paper, right? This is a paper. Papers have dates on them. Put the date there so people know how relevant it is. Okay. You have one work experience here since last year. So this is coming up on a year. This is like 8 months currently, right? Coming up on a year. We got to improve the writing here. Okay, we had to improve the writing here. So, worked as a full stack developer, dude. Come on. Show don't tell. Okay, let's take a look. What was full stack about it? Where's the front end? I don't see any front end here. Where's the back end? You have a blockchain based supply chain management software. That's a what. There's no why. There's no why here. There's no how here, right? So it's missing two of the major three things you got to talk about, right? What about this one? Create a custom resume to job alignment machine learning system. Okay, that's kind of weird. So this is this is contract work. These three are completely unrelated. So created a custom resume to job alignment machine learning system. Okay, that makes a bit more sense. We'll talk about it. How good was the ML system? What was the error? How much manual effort did it reduce? Right? Like what was the purpose of this thing? Right? That's completely missing here. Right? Create a search engine for location-based search of supply chains. Okay, and how was it? Was the performance good? Was the accuracy good? What problem was it solving? How much effort did it save compared to what it was before? Right? Like this is missing all the context of the why. Awards. Okay, so crypto wallet authentication. Okay, so I don't understand what's going on here. So this is an example, right? If you're going for AI ML, like think to yourself, what does this convey, right? Like what is this telling people? Like it's an image perception thing, right? Like this doesn't say anything. This doesn't say you're good at research. This doesn't say you're good at just even not necessarily, not saying you're bad, but it doesn't prove you're good at anything, right? So this is one of those things where you can put as like a reward thing and as an award. I wouldn't even focus on this thing at all. Okay. What is this? Runner-up in Chilliwack Chambers of Commerce Hackathon. Language translator app. Is it this one? Okay. Paper accepted in the Canadian Symposium of Wilson. So this one seems to be the main one, right? But it shouldn't be over here. You should put this thing over here. Right? So it's all over the place. It's all over the place. Frankly, okay, if it was a recruiter looking at this, and let's say they get past education, that's fine. They get past education. Okay, this is serious. What is this? Right? This is okay. This is it's a bit all over the place. This is when you get to this thing, it's already like, okay, we're already like trying to fish for stuff going on, right? So it's right, like this should not be how is this 4 lines and how is this also 4 lines, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like this is a far more impactful piece to elaborate on than this project. So it's just not quite there. The organization. I won't go through your writing, so to correct that, you can go look at the writing again, right? Take the feedback from this, improve the writing. But what you can do is, I'll tell you right now, this should probably be more, they should probably go into more detail about this one. This one you can keep as is in terms of resource allocation. This should be 1 line. Okay, this should be 1 line. And Bitcoin price prediction based on Twitter sentiment. Here's the thing. This project, you're talking about ETL pipeline. Great. The issue here is not about the Twitter. No one cares about Twitter. No one cares about Bitcoin. The problem is that well, there's a couple problems with this one. The first problem is, are you doing what purpose are you doing this for? Right? Okay, let's say you're doing this for practicing your ETL construction skills. Okay, that's fine, but then you should talk more about the ETL pipeline. Like you should talk more about what considerations are made for picking certain technologies, what considerations were made for, running it this way, running it forward, backwards, like those kind of things. That you should put more emphasis on that. Let's say otherwise, your focus was on the ETL pipeline. Let's say your focus was on being able to visualize the data, show it to people, convince them to do something about it, which I don't think is the case, but it's a bit weird to have otherwise. It's a bit weird then to say, hey, why are we, what's the purpose of that, right? Did you convince anyone? Was it just for showcase purposes? You said here that you open source the data set, so you want people to know about it, right? So it's to convey some information to people. It's not clear what that is. Right? So, each of these points, they don't really work together. They talk about something different. It doesn't really understand what's going on. I'll give you another example of that, right? So part of the talking points is not a log of what you've done. It's supposed to show off something you did that no one else could do, or that no one else wanted to do, or otherwise it's not about it's about some skill differentiation, right? Say, hey, I've got the skill that fewer people have, that makes me more valuable. Open sourcing a data set shows none of that, right? Like, this is the thing you do as like a product requirement, or this is just a it's just a project. But if it was a product, it'd be a product requirement, right? That's not really a skill thing, right? Now the last thing I think you could actually talk about. This is actually interesting, and in fact, I would put this one first because that's the only point here that is actually like has content. All the other points here don't really have content, right? What's going on here? And it's another example, right? This is a thing where you said I implemented an algorithm in a paper. Like, what is this conveying? There's no research here. Like you implemented something. It is what it is, right? Like this doesn't tell anyone anything. Like, great, you made it. So did the researchers. They also made it, right? So I would say if the implementation itself was not a highly difficult endeavor, that's not really worth the space in the resume, right? So I think there's a lot of things going on here, right? If you're going for academia, focus on academia. If you're going to go to industry, I think you probably need a master's. But if you're going for industry, then focus on the difficulties of actually realizing some data, or realizing some algorithm. That makes more sense. Just saying you implemented something from a good paper doesn't really prove anything, right? So the conveyance is not there. A lot of stuff to work on there, for sure. I would also say in this case, you should put the education at the bottom. This is not a relevant degree, so you can put it at the bottom, or at the top, and as skills as well. Skills and education, put at the bottom. It's taking up too much valuable room at the top. Great. What is this? No preview available. What the fuck file is this? Your PNG is not previewable? That's sus. Alright, let me go ahead and use convert. Alright, I don't know who just submitted their PNG, but it's not a... The file looks a bit sus. Submit it again. But you did have a question. In the meantime, you did have a question you asked. I'm looking for internships in software development, preferably back-end. Not sure my experience from high school co-op is even worth putting on my resume since I'm not a CS major. What sort of skills products have a resume? Okay. I mean, I'll answer in broad strokes first. I mean, obviously, whether or not the high school co-op is worth putting on depends on if it was technical or not. If it was technical, that could be worth putting on. Right. But it's low priority. It's not going to be a high priority. You shouldn't be taking up primary real estate with that kind of experience, right? Regarding what projects you should put on back-end projects, if you're going for back-end roles, you should be putting on back-end projects. Okay. And there's a lot of pretty good quality back-end projects you could be using. I would recommend, in general, if you don't know what's a good project, you should just be cloning a good project, right? So what I mean by that if let's say let's say you want to go for a back end job at, let's say, Amazon AWS. Okay, great. Go make a autoscaler, right? Go make a autoscaler. Or let's say you're really passionate about back end work, but in the context of, let's say, video processing. Great. Go make a YouTube backend, right? Or go make an encoding backend or something of those lines, right? It obviously doesn't need to be the same scale. It obviously won't have the same characteristics, but you shouldn't be spending so much time thinking about what to make. You should just be making a clone of something that's already impressive. So think about it from that, from that perspective, and it's probably going to be a lot more productive. Um, Also, it's a thing where, depending how much experience you have making things, you might be fast or slow at it, right? So some things you have to be slow at to be able to learn something, right? That makes sense. But sometimes you're trying to make a product, you're trying to make something that actually works. You can't be doing everything new for the first time. You want to leverage past experience to be able to build something at a reasonable speed, and to be able to do that, you know, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have struggled in the past. So don't shy away from learning things at the beginning if you don't know many backend technologies. Get in there, do something with it, and later on you can evaluate. Hey, was that experience good? Should I use that technology again? Should I invest in learning something new? But we can only make that decision after you've gotten some experience with the technology. Otherwise, you're just flying blind, and that's not good. All right, let me see. Where am I? Sorry, I can try and re-upload. Yeah, go ahead and do that. Uh, um, where is my thing? Let's take a look. Did he upload it yet? Resume. Here we go. Let's take a look. Okay, there we go. Yep, this time the image loaded fine. All right. Bachelor's of Science, Mathematics, CS minor. Okay. Okay. All right. This is probably okay. This is okay to put on because you have no experience yet. After you get some experience, I'd say take this off. Skills. Okay. Okay. Lowercase p. Oh, I wouldn't put this here again. Soft skills. I wouldn't put this here either. Um, there's definitely a better way to put that space to use. So this is your experience. That's fine. Keep that on. Okay, chat website, full stack, real time messaging. Okay. 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 So makes sense. Here's the thing again, right? Okay, we gotta differentiate ourselves. Um, Sounds good, but a bit basic. What year are you in? Yeah, you're 30 already. This sounds a bit basic. What would I like to hear about? I would like to hear about performance. I would like to hear about concurrency. Something that would be good. I would like to hear about the user experience, right? So for example, uh, what's a login like? Also, you're missing a space between that. What's a login like? There's no login. It's just random, random, random. Okay, that's kind of fun, I guess. Um, Something that, if you're lacking the detail, if you're lacking the depth there, it just comes with like a hackathon, right? And I don't know if there is depth or not because, like, for example, deployed on AWS Docker makes sense. What's the leverage there, right? Like what's the purpose? What's going on there? What problem are we solving here? There's a lot of questions on that, right? So so I would say you have to kind of expand on that. Salary. I'll still put Git. Salary predictor AI. Now you base model Python salaries based on demographic data. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Implement algorithms for variable elimination data processing. Okay. So how accurate is it? I mean, the one number that you need to showcase this product is missing. Okay. This is a bit shallow. Snake game. Okay, okay, I see. Okay, so here's the thing. Given that, given these three products, the bottom three, that gives the recruiter pretty high confidence or pretty high inkling that the first product is just a hackathon. Why would I say that? The skill disparity is extremely disjoint. It's a completely different tech stack. Um, it's a completely different tech stack, and the main thing is that none of the previous products use the same technology. Like forget the tech stack, just it's different technologies, right? So none of these are. So these are all. So these are not even front end back end. These are just standalone programs. Okay, this is a purely back end. Um, I would say like purely back end. Project, and it definitely feels like a class project, right? And so what's going to be what's lacking differentiation here is that there's just nothing that stands out, right? Like these are all standard products that everyone has. Like if you graduate with a degree, everyone's gonna have these projects, right? So it doesn't stand out. Now let me take a look. What was your comment? Also enjoy front end full stack. Projects all over the place not good enough. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, standard prescription, right? You need a full stack web app project. That's what you need. You need a full stack web app project. Uh, Question about personal. Oh, I missed a comment from guy above. Are hackathon products looked down upon if you utilize them within your resume? Um, Here's my response to that. If you put a hackathon project in a resume, that doesn't say anything about the hackathon. What that says is that you have nothing better to put on. So what you're saying is that let's say for the sake of argument, you have 4 spots for projects in a resume. If one of them is a hackathon, that means in 48 hours, in 24 hours, and whatever time, you have made a better project than anything you've done in your 4-year degree. Not anything else. Then the fourth best thing you've done on your in your 4-year degree. That's what it's saying. So it's okay to put on. Of course, it's okay to put on, but just be aware of what it's communicating. That's all. Question about personal project. Most of mine are just a single push. I build things locally and push everything to the main. Is that bad? No, that's fine. You would have to be some really special person to use branches effectively in a solo project. Like you have to have a complex project, a project with the branches and features are being tracked separately. Then you would do that. But if it's just a solo person project, it's totally fine to just push on main. Uh, yeah, there you go. Full stack web app. That's the panacea for half the people I see. Okay, great. Anyways, that brings us to about time. Uh, I'm gonna start the next session, the next mock interview, very soon. What would be the oldest project or experience in my resume? What should be? I said there should be no age requirement. Some people make very right. Okay, so here's the thing, right? The average student makes better projects later on in their development. That's just how learning works. However, some students are strong throughout their entire career, their entire development path, their entire degree, and so for those people, they might have made a very relevant project in first year, or even before first year, which should be on the resume. So I would not say time I use as a proxy to judge, how long has this person been relevant. But I would say if you have a good project from a long time ago, you should keep it on. That's all. Would a master's in geographic systems, where most papers include AI, help me get an AI image? Would it help you? Maybe. Uh, No, I would say no, it wouldn't. The AI ML industry is extremely competitive, and you must be relevant in either research and or um, like projects, like highly relevant to get a job without a master's. And masters are pretty competitive too now because a lot of the masters are research based. Well, most of them are, almost all of them are, and so the differentiation there really becomes who's your supervisor, right? Like who are you doing research with? That's a differentiator. The coursework is all trivial. That's nothing new. It's a research opportunity. It's what paper is your name on. That's sort of carried by the professors you work with. So if your professors are in geographic systems, like their names will not be in AI journals. That is not the relevant metric to consider. I got a lot of ads for professional masters. I don't know what a professional master is, but if you're not going for a research master's in data science at like a decent school, I would say they're not worth it. Like even the Masters of Data Management program at UBC is already like maybe hold off on that one. So I would say you have to be quite selective about master's programs because uh, it's not easy. Course-based masters, yeah. Here's the thing: course-based masters typically have such a low bar of entry that you get no value out of the other students in the cohort. Like again, most of the value there is the people in the program. The coursework is all completely like the coursework. I can guarantee you is better on Coursera than at any university other than like the top 20 universities in the world. Okay, the value there is not the courses. The value there is not it's the professors. It's the other students. Connections. It's the name of the school. Do they host events? Like that's the value of the masters, not the course. The course is completely worthless. Does it matter that my degree is a math degree, not a CS degree? Most of my CS learning I've done either with my minor or in my own time. Does it matter? Yeah, it's a disadvantage, but math and stats are still adjacent, so it's not like disastrous. What I will say though is that obviously if you have a math if you have not math if you have a math degree, people will be scrutinizing their products a lot more, right? And that's why I'd say for you is okay. Keep the coursework there until you get some more experience. It's okay, keep the coursework there, but again, that doesn't that's not really gonna do your favors if your projects are not comparable to that of a CS major, right? So that's your benchmark. So don't focus too much on the degree. Degree's fine, but it's not an advantage. So you got to make sure you keep up with your projects. Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's great. Okay. Well, I sent you a CoderPad link, so go ahead and join that when you can. Be aware that your name will show up there.
Yep. All right. I think I'll log in into CoderPad.
Okay. Let me just double check you. Yep, I see you in there. Great. Okay. Python good? What's your preferred language?
Yes, Python.
Great. Okay, so let's just get right into it then. Um, Hold on. Let me just check my stream is okay. Excuse me. Get some water here. Ah, love water. Great. So let's just get right into it then. So yeah. So welcome to the mock interview. We're starting 4 minutes late, unfortunately. Sorry about that. But we're gonna be doing about 45 minutes of problem solving. Okay. And then we'll do some feedback and questions on whatever you have for me after. How's that sound?
Yep, that sounds good to me.
Great. Okay, so the first problem is a Leetcode problem. Okay, I want you to write me a function called find center. Okay, so find center is a function, and you're gonna take in a list of edges. Okay, and the list of edges it's represented as a list of int. Okay, it's a list of int. That's how an edge is represented. So the list of int, each int, it's a pair essentially. Think of that way. It indicates a edge between two nodes. Right, indicates a pair between each pair. So in the int, it represents a edge between the two nodes there. Okay, so you got that down. Okay, and then you're gonna return a integer. Okay, and this integer, it represents a node. That is the center of the graph. Okay, and I'll explain what center means in this case. So, the definition of a center node is it is a node that has exactly n-1 edges that connect to it. In other words, the center node connects to every other node in the graph.
Yep. So just for clarification, so the center node would be connect to every other node in the graph, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. All right. And that would be all right.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay. So we need to write a function to find a center that's take in a list of edge. Okay, so integers is a pair between two nodes, returning integers that represent a node that's the center of the graph. So we need to return a center. Okay, list of edge. So let me enter the drawing here. So let's say we have okay, maybe we have a node. So the first questions that I have, so we have a list of edge. So our graph, would it be like directed graph or undirected graph? Let's say if we have a node. Um, um, right. Let's say we have this is node A, B, C, and D. So in this case, can we assume that the graph will be undirected graph or directed graph? Like
This will be an undirected
binary?
graph.
Okay. Okay, got it. And the center node has connect to every other node. So let's say if we have here we would have the center node. Maybe just call it E. So the center node will be connect to every other node in the graph. So it will connect to node D, and it also connect to node A, and it's also connect to node B, and it's also connect to node C. We need to return an integers that represent a node.
Yes, in this case you will return E.
Oh, okay. So in this case, we need to return E.
Yeah, and E would be represented as a number, right? So your edges are represented as a pair of integers, not a pair of characters. But you will return E. Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, okay. let's say maybe we would have pair of integers. And maybe this one will be and this would be maybe this would be 2, 3. So for the pair of the integers, can it be a negative values or is only contain positive values?
Okay, so I want to just clarify something here. So I think it's a bit of confusion. Just to be clear, every node is a number, and a pair of numbers is an edge.
Oh, I see, I see. Okay, got it. Oh, I see. So let me just maybe erase it. Um, so okay, so let's just be maybe yeah, which is just in this case, maybe we would have labeled this would be 1, 2, 3, and 4 for A, B, C, D, and E would be 5. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Um, so let's say maybe another example. What if we have um this so in this case we will return 2, right? That would be the centers of
Yeah.
the graph. Is that correct? Okay. Okay. Okay, makes sense. Thanks. So this would be so one approach I can thinking of is that maybe we can use to traverse let's say we need to start from this node to go to this node. Yeah. So maybe we can go to center node. So I think we can do DFS traversals to start to 5 the graph that have a cycle, right? If we look at the first example,
Okay.
um, if we have like 1, 2, and 5, so this this graph would create a cycle. And then if we look at like 2, 3, and 5, this is also a cycle.
Okay.
And if we look at 3, 4, and 5, this also create a cycle. And then the last one is would be 4, 1, and 5. That's also create a cycle. So um, Yeah, we can do like DFS or maybe a unified algorithm to find the connected component. In this case, um,
Right. So, but all the nodes are connected.
all the nodes are
Right.
connected.
There, if the nodes aren't connected, there can't be a center. Remember the definition of the center that I gave is that a center node is connected to every other node in the graph.
Center node connect to every other node in the graph. Hmm, that should be undirected. Yep, that's true. Okay, maybe if we start with the DFS traversal, if we start from this node and then visit the neighbors, I think in this case, if we can do like DFS or BFS is also fine. Do you think that I can start with the DFS traversal or BFS traversal would be
Yeah. So maybe before we
um
do any
would
traversal,
the,
I want to ask, why are you traversing? What's the goal of the traversal?
um so if we find a graph that have a cycle, right?
Okay.
In this case, if we do like if we start from A, then A go to B, um, and then B can also the centers. If we look at um another example, if a node like this, a graph like this, so in this case, if we have, one, two, three, right? So in this case, um, one, uh, one also connect to node two, and then one also connect to node three. So let's connect to every other node. If we break the cycle, um, so let's say we have one, two, and three. In this case, we would have to return node three, right? So node three will be connect to node one and node two. So
Yeah.
node three will be the centers of the graph.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, so if we start the DFS, the depth first search to find the path between um the, of the node in the graph. So there would be a path from um node three to node one, and there's also a path from node three to node two.
Yeah, that 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 would tell you that, but what would you do with it though?
So if node 3 connect to node 1 and then node 3 connect to node 2, then node 3 is the centers, and then we check um node 1 connect to node 3, but node 1 does not connect to node 2. So that's why node 1 here cannot be the center node. Also, we would need to check for node 2, right? If we check node 2 connect with node 3, but node 2 do not connect with node 1, so node 2 also cannot be the centers.
Yeah, that's true.
So um
So what's a property
how do we
of a node that is a center?
so property of a node that is centers
Yeah, what are
that
some
is
properties you
connect
noticed?
to,
Yeah.
so it will connect to every node
Yep.
in the graphs.
Yep. That's true. That's the only node that connects to all the other nodes in the graph. There's one center.
Yep.
Okay. And what does that mean about the number of edges it has?
Does it mean about a number of edges that have? Oh, let's say we have 3 nodes and then the number of the edge is 2 edges.
Yep.
Um, oh, okay, I see, I see. So in this case, so we have 3 nodes and then maybe n minus 1 edge. So 3 nodes. Then n would be n minus 1 edge. N would be the number of nodes that we have.
Okay.
Okay.
And can any other node have this property?
Any other node have these properties? No, I think only the center node have the property that's connect to every other node, and every other node, like in this case, if we look at node 1 and node 2, they do not connect to each others. So let's say if we have a graph uh, like this, also, yeah, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So since node 5 is connect to every other node, connect to node 1, 2, 3, and 4. So node 5 will be the centers, and every other node, like one doesn't have a connection to node 2, and then 1 also doesn't have the connection to node 4. Um, so yeah.
Yep, I agree. So the center node is the only node which has a property of having n minus 1 edges.
Yep. Um, n minus 1 edges. Okay. Okay, so if we have 3 nodes and then n minus 1 edges, okay, if we have like the number of nodes. So if we have like this one, we will have 5 nodes and then 4 edges. If we do,
Yeah.
you can go first.
Yeah, so the center node is the only node which has n-1 edges. Right? We've established that. Now,
Yep.
we're trying to find the center node. So there's a couple things you can do to find the center node. One thing you could have done is do a form of traversal, but to do the traversal, you had to construct the graph. So you would need to construct a graph from the edges, and then you can do a traversal. The other way is leveraging the fact that we know this is the only node that has exactly n-1 edges. And then by doing some analysis on the edges themselves.
I see. Okay, so yep, I think first we can since it's a undirected graph, we can construct the graph with the adjacency list, construct the graph, and then we can start the depth first traversal to all of the neighbor nodes, like other nodes in the graph. And then maybe we can have to keep track of the node that we already visit. We can have a visit set to make sure that we don't visit the node again.
Okay, we can do that.
Yep. Yeah, that would be my initial thought. Say,
Okay, that's you mean that there's that's definitely one way to do it. If that's what you're comfortable with, we can go with that.
so can I start with the coding now?
Yep.
Is it sounds good to you? Yeah. Okay. Maybe we can have a functions called find center node. We would need to check in a list of edge. So yeah, we just take in a list of edge. So that would be the list of the integers. Okay, so first we will need to construct the graph view adjacency list. We need to build an adjacency list. So so I think we would need to have tag in the number of nodes also.
You won't be given the number of nodes. Your only input is a list of edges.
Oh,
But you could calculate the number of nodes if you need.
okay, gotcha. So we only okay. So maybe this would be range and then for a in edges, we would need to construct adjacency list. What will be A? Append B. And then append 8. Yep. And then we would have a visit set to keep track of the node that we already visit.
Okay.
Then we would have another functions that can be the DFS or the helper functions to travel from the node. So this would take in the node and the pairs the node. So for the base case, we need to check if the current nodes that already in the visit set or not. So so if the current node not in the visit set, we will need to add the node into the visit set. Then we can start the traversal from the current node to its neighbor node. So the center from if we start from 2.
So why are we doing DFS? Like, what is the goal of the like death first search? What are we searching for?
We searching for all of the path in the graph, right? If we start from one node, then we will go all the way down to the. If not, like we can go as far as possible in the graphs that we have.
Yeah, but what are we searching for?
We're searching for the centers in this case.
Okay.
And we're searching for if the node that is connected to every other node
Yeah.
in the graphs.
Okay.
So if that node, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the base case, right?
Oh, if the node connect to every other node in the graphs. Okay. That's the base case. So if not in visit, we add the current node to the visit set. So what if current node is already in the visit set, in this case, if the current node is already in the visit set,
So let's not care about it being the visited set. Let's talk about what happens after. Okay. Can you implement check center?
yep. If check center return node. Oh, okay. Check center we just return node. Okay, gotcha. So the check center function would return a Boolean values, right? That would return true if not in the centers in the graph, right? That's correct, right?
So check center will return true if and only if the node that's passed in is the center node.
Okay. So not a passing is centers node. If not, check centers. Okay. Maybe we would have that. And then we have,
Yeah,
so
so let's
if
think
the
about what's going on here, right? So we want to do a traversal across the graph. That makes sense. I want to do the traversal until a node is the center,
we will
right?
traverse until
One, if
node
we
is
don't find the
centers.
center, it must be the last node that we encounter, right? So we want to traverse until we find the center. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
We want to find until the centers. That's
Okay. So now that we know that, let's sketch this out. Okay. We assume that check center. So okay. All right. I'll draw some nuts. Right. So we're some nuts. Okay. So what are we doing here? So if this check passes, that means we found the center. Right. So later on, right, we are thinking is right. You do helper root, or you call it. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what your process. You put in root, right? And then you can do return, right? So this is center equals this, return center. This is what your goal is, right? This is your goal. I don't know what your pairs is. You can do that later, right? But this is your goal, okay? Now the rest of the helper method is a regular DFS, right? It's a regular DFS.
okay.
You have a base case, which is you run into a cycle. Okay, sure. Another base case is you're done. You're done because you found it, right? If you're over here, that means you haven't found it yet, which means that you need to implement the rest of the logic, right? So if you're here, you were gonna do, if neighbor not in visited, you would do what? You would do helper what? Helper neighbor, right? Like continue from here. So continue with the regular DFS.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, okay. So if the neighbor not in visit. Okay. So we need to check implement the check center functions. So if if not 2 connects to 2 not 3, okay. So we will need to return it's not that connect to we're at the current node. Okay, the next node will also connect to first node. Connects to this node.
Let's hit pause on check center. Let's hit pause on check center. Let's assume that check center works correctly. How's that sound? Okay. How about you finish the rest of the DFS implementation?
Okay, gotcha. So if check center return the node if for each neighbor and then the neighbor is not in visit. And we have to add a neighbor to the visit, and then we can start with the DFS functions. Oh, the neighbor. And visit, we add the neighbor node into the visit set, and then we call the DFS functions from that neighbor nodes. We add the neighbor, and then we check. So for the ASK, so in the case that the neighbor node is already in the visit set, we, in this case, we already visit the node before, so we just continue then.
Okay. Let's talk about time and space.
Time space complexity. So for the time complexity, I think we would have to visit every node in the graphs. So that would be v plus e. V is number of nodes and e is number of edges. For the space complexity, it will also v plus e. Did we do the DFS traversal? Yep.
Okay. Um,
Yep.
can you elaborate a bit on why it's v plus e though? Like, why is DFS v plus e for space complexity?
So if we look at the, okay, let me go to. So let's say in this example that, okay, where can I look? Okay. So let's say if we start with this example from from node 5 to node 2 and then node 5 to node 1, we need to do the DFS traversal from 5 to 2 and 5 to 1 and 5 to 4, also 5 to 3. So that's we need to check all of, we need to visit all of the node in the graph once.
Okay.
Then yeah, we would have to traverse, the edge would be the path from the node 5 to every other node. So we also traverse, like looking from this node, the center node, to every other node. So we also visit the edge of the edge in the graph also. So I believe the overall time complexity is V O of V plus V. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. So, what went well? What went well? What do you think could have been better here?
I think I should ask more clarifying questions at the
Okay.
beginning to have a clear understand um, what the problem is trying to, of what we're trying to find.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true. How about what went well?
So I think maybe I should communicate more with you about the thought process, and also is of the step that I is of the code that I write. So and what else? I think I could do a little bit better on the implementations for the DFS functions. Yeah, that should be like the template. So I should maybe code faster for the Apple DFS functions.
Yeah.
And yeah. So do you have any like other feedback? for me.
Yeah, we can talk about a couple things here. Um, the first thing I'll say is like, the problem isn't actually that important. You could go solve it in your own time. That's not what I'll focus on. I'm sure you can figure that out. One thing I will maybe focus a bit more on is that, there were hints that were given that you probably could have used more. So, what I mean by
Oh,
that is there's kind of already two hints going on here. The first hint was why why are edges giving to you, right? Like why don't they give you an adjacency list? Why is it they give you edges, right? Why is that not they give you an adjacency matrix even, right? They're giving you edges specifically, right? There's a reason for that, right? That's the first thing. That's a bit more subtle, right? That's fair. You probably missed it, right? The second thing is when
yep.
when you were diagramming the solution out, right? Like why am I asking you what is DFS going to do, right? Like you can use DFS, right? In the situation I laid out here, this would if you implement a check center, and if you fix the bug in the helper, I can talk about that later. This would work, right? It would not be optimal, but it would work, right? So, but you have to be clear about that. What are you searching? DFS is depth first search. Searching for what? Okay, obviously this probably search for the center, right? Okay, so let's search for the center. So if you're searching for the center, how do you know if you're the center? Right? So when you think about these logical questions, you should be already piecing out, oh, that's a helper function. Oh, that's a this condition. That's a that condition. Right? So these are hints coming out. What are you searching for? And then another hint that was given was about and this one I spent a bit more time on hinting, which was what is a unique property about the center node? The center node is the only node in the graph that has n minus one edges. Right? Why is that important? That's important because you don't actually need to traverse a graph to find the node. Right? Why is that? Because
Oh,
the edge is given, n minus one of the edges will have one number, right, of the center node. Right? And additionally, this is a hint. I don't think you quite picked up on this one, but this is another one that was meant to be a hint, which is the center node is the only node with n minus one edges. It is also the node with the most edges.
oh, the node with the most edges. Oh, true, true. Yeah, yeah. I see. Yeah.
Right? So if you were to make that connection, that this problem would essentially become in the list of pairs of numbers, find the number that appears the most often.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. Yep.
So a couple understanding things there, right? So a couple things there, hints on what, right? These are things that when the interviewer is telling you about these kind of things, especially when the interviewer is telling you that you have a solution, you have a DFS solution, and there's another option. What they're actually telling you is that your option is bad, and that you should do the other one if you can understand why. Right now, in this case, if you don't
Oh,
understand why, there's nothing you can do, so you have to do DFS. But this is not a DFS
oh,
problem. This is not a search problem. This is a counting problem.
oh. I see. This counting problem. Okay.
Great.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I misunderstand about the problem. Yep.
Yeah, and then we can talk
So
about the. Sorry, go ahead.
okay. So would oh this is counting. So this would be counting the number of edge in this case, right? Because the center node will have the most edge that connect to that node, right?
Yes.
So okay, gotcha, gotcha. I got it. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So there's some other stuff to talk about here. So again, right. So the problem I won't speak about. The problem doesn't matter. The problem you can go figure out your own. That's not important. Some other stuff I want to talk about is, for example, let's talk about the time and space complexity. Right. Time complexity v plus e. That is correct for DFS. However, are we doing DFS here? That's a question. Why do I ask that question? Because your input to DFS is node. Right. Your input to DFS is node.
Oh,
But how do you calculate node? Right? How do you even generate the input to the DFS? So you generate node by generating the adjacency list first. What is the complexity of generating the adjacency list? Do you know?
So for the adjacency list, it's also O of V time, if I remember correctly, it should be O of V time E.
Yeah, so it's going to
Wait,
depend on a lot of things. So one thing it's going to depend on is, first of all, what's the density of the graph? Right. In this case, it's not very dense, but you didn't say that, so you can't assume it, right? Another thing is going to
mhm.
be, how do you find n? Right.
How do we find it?
You assume you know the
Oh,
number of nodes ahead of time, but you don't. Right. So like what I'm getting at is not that you're wrong. V plus z is actually correct for this one, but you didn't justify it correctly. You didn't account for all the pre-processing you're doing. So there's a
oh,
lot of
okay,
stuff
got
here that's
it.
going on that you missed, right? And then why does that matter? That matters because if you don't know what you missed, you don't know where
Mm,
the rules don't apply. And
yep.
you were like, I think you actually already made step one into making this a realization, right? Space complexity, V plus E, correct for DFS. Actually, sort of correct for DFS. Do you know the more correct space complexity for DFS? In other words, let me ask you this:
Oh,
what causes DFS to use space?
what causes the DFS to use speed? I think because of its go very depth. Like if we go to the leaf node, so the recursion call stack, maybe it would grow a lot more if we call it so many times.
Great.
Is that correct?
That's
Yep.
that's correct. So the space complexity of DFS is the is proportional to the depth of the call stack. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me ask you this: what is the depth of the call stack?
What is the depth of the call stack?
All right, open the drawing tab.
Yep.
Open the drawing tab. Pick any one you want that has a center. What is the maximum depth of the call stack?
Depth of the so okay. So let's start with this one. If we starting from the centers.
Start anywhere you want.
And okay, so let if we start at the node one, it will go to node five, and then this will go back to node one, and then since there are no connections between node one and node four, also node one and node two, and then if we start from node two, there are no connections from node two to node one and node two to node three. Also, only the connection from node 2 to node 5, which is the centers. Um, the depth, so it will recursion call stack. It will call the depth of the recursions call stack. It would be the number of the number of edges, right?
I think you're on the right track. The
Yeah.
the the maximum recursive depth is 2. The maximum recursive depth for any graph that has a center is 2. Why is it 2?
It's-
It's 2 because you can go from any node to the center, which is you can go from any node to any node in 2 steps.
Oh, it's two. So it would be a constant, right?
So DFS will be constant, but DFS is not the only work you're doing. You can't forget that. You're also doing
Mm.
an entire adjacency list.
Oh,
So it would still be V plus E minimum. But
mm-hmm.
DFS, but again, as a
Yeah.
justification, the DFS here is actually constant space because the maximum depth of the call stack is at most 2.
Okay, I see, I see. Okay. The depth of maximum is two. Okay. Why
Okay.
is it two again?
It's two. It's very
Can
simple.
you clarify?
Yeah, it's two because you can go from any node to any node in 2 hops.
Any node? Or like the bidirectional, right? You can go from 5 to 2 and 2 to 5, right?
You can go from 1 to 3 in two hops. You can go to 1 to 2 in
Ah,
2 hops.
okay.
In other words,
Yeah.
you cannot draw a graph that has a center and requires a depth of 3 to traverse between any two nodes.
Okay, I see. I see. Mm,
Does that make sense?
yeah, kind of. Yeah.
You can do that as homework. I'll write down this homework in the thing.
Yeah.
Prove that a graph with a center. So if a graph doesn't have a center, this doesn't apply. Has the following. Between any two nodes that is at most depth 2. And in other words, alright, you can rephrase it. Impossible to draw a graph with a center that has a shortest path with depth 3 between any nodes. So you can do that you can do it for homework.
Okay, gotcha. Yep.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions about this problem or about the interview?
So so do you have any others advice or feedback that I should um start focusing more to improve for the next time, whether it would be like communicate or use more hints like you said before, or I should ask more clarifying questions at the beginning to understand about the problems like more, right?
Yeah, I mean all of that, right? So one thing is that you didn't understand how edges were represented. You were putting a pair of numbers per node. That's not the right understanding, right? So feedback for that, go study graphs again, I guess. Go study graphs, go study how edges are represented. That's the first piece. Second piece, like you said, take hints. If the interviewer is giving you a hint, that means you're already wrong. You're already wrong. They need you to course correct to bring you back up to speed, right? So when you get a hint, you should absolutely try to understand what they're saying. Okay, if you're on the right track, there's no need for hints. Put it that way.
Okay, got you.
Clarifying questions, that kind of stuff, that ties in the first point again, like what we said earlier. Graph edges are one thing, but also you have to catch when you don't understand something, right? Like you have to be real with yourself. If I didn't tell you that's not how edges are written, would you have found out yourself, right? If you would have found it yourself, then that's okay because you would have fixed it. If you wouldn't have caught it yourself, then that's an understanding problem. Like you didn't even realize that you didn't know what's going on, right? And of course, part of that will get better as you understand graphs better, but this is not really a graph problem. That's a do you understand edges problem, right? Trees have edges too, by the way, right? Trees have edges. So
Yep.
how's that work, right? So
Yep.
that's a general feedback there. Otherwise, be very clear what your goal of writing this code is, right? You're writing DFS. Okay, DFS means you got to search. So when I see that you're writing DFS helper, you have a base case, and then you go immediately to iterate through the neighbors. I, from that point on, understand that you don't know what a DFS is because you missed the entire point of the exercise, which is like, what do you return? Right? Like,
Yeah.
what do you return? You're not return if you don't have this and you just do it this. There's no return value. Right?
Yep.
What's the point? So you have to be very clear about why you're doing something. Right? You can use DFS. Like if you do it this way, that's okay. You can use DFS, right? But if you did DFS without the node return, then that doesn't do anything, right? It just returns void, right? So you have to understand that. So always be clear
Gotcha.
about what your immediate goal is. My immediate goal of writing a DFS is to traverse the entire graph and then for each node I haven't already checked, I'm going to check if it's a center, right? That's a valid use of a DFS in that case.
Yep, gotcha.
And then, I mean, obviously, the last one would be, this time the problem was a bit hard, I guess. So we didn't have time to talk about edge cases and tests and bugs. But in your own practice, you should be talking about that, right? So in your own practice,
Hmm.
if you just assume this code works, what is the bug? In this case, a helper.
Yeah,
The bug is it. If the bug is that you're not tracking the helper.
yeah, yep. All right. All right. Thank you so much, Leo, for your feedback for this time. And yeah,
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Hope you learned.
yep, gotcha.
All right, that's it for the stream then. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. And I will catch you all sometime. I don't know when, probably next week. So I've been like trying to schedule these things in, and I don't really. Let me check my calendar actually. I'm trying to schedule these things in as in advance as possible, but sometimes I get conflicts that come up. I had to reschedule, but yeah, plan for it to be next week, Saturday, not Sunday.